Welcome to section 2.3, where we're going to look at fractions. So a fraction is typically a part of a whole. It's when we take a whole quantity of something and divide it into equal parts. And then we want to know how many of those equal parts we have. So we would write a fraction as a over b, some number over another number. The number on the top is called the numerator. And the number on the bottom is called the denominator. So as an example, if we were trying to represent 1/3, let's say you bought a chocolate bar with two of your roommates and you all went equal on it, then you would divide this chocolate bar into 3 equal parts, assuming you have equitable roommates, and you would each get 1/3 of it. So you would each get one chunk of the 3 chunks. What about 2 over 6? Well, let's say your chocolate bar actually had 6 pieces in it. Here you would get 2 over 6, and you might notice it's actually the same amount. Or 4 over 12. So if that chocolate bar was divided into 12 pieces, each of you and your roommates would get 4 of those 12 pieces. We would call these equivalent fractions. They all mean the same thing. And we'll talk more about those later. Just to kind of picture some fractions, let's move over to these circles here. So if we have 1, a whole number, this would be like 1, let's say pi, okay? So we've got 1 whole pi here. If we had 1/2, then that means you've taken your pi, you've divided it into the number of pieces that's in your denominator. So here that's a 2. So we've taken our pi, we've divided it into 2 equal parts, and we have the shaded amount. We have 1/2 of the pi. And then 1/4, so same thing. Now we've divided that pi into 4 equal amounts. Because we have 1 out of 4, based on that numerator, that means we have 1 piece of those 4 pieces. Or 3 out of 4. So now once again, we've divided it into 4 equal spots, but this time, or 4 equal pieces, but this time we have 3 of those pieces. All right. So sometimes you'll be asked a question like this where it asks, what is the fraction that represents the shaded part of this picture? So in this first case here, we've got this square. The square has been divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces. And we have here, maybe I'll just shade 1, 2, 3 of those pieces. So to represent that fraction, we would say 3 over 4. So we have 3 out of 4 of those equal pieces. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try the next one. Okay, and so here we have 5 pieces. The shaded amount is 2 of those 5 pieces, so it's 2/5. All right, so what does the fraction bar really mean? Well, we've touched on this before. When we say a over b, that really means divide. That's the same thing as saying a divided by b. So for instance, if we have a fraction that's 5 over 6, that really means 5 divided by 6. And in the long division section, we would have done 5 divided by 6, and you'd end up with a decimal answer of 0.83. I think it's actually 0.83 repeating, if I'm not mistaken. Where's my calculator? Let's just double check that. You can check as well. So if we go on our calculators and we say 5 divided by 6, that's really what that 5 over 6 represents. And yes, we get 0.83 where the 3 is repeating. So we can put that bar on top of the 3 there. All right. A little bit of terminology here. So we have a proper fraction. These are kind of like the regular fractions that you see. And that's where the numerator is less than the denominator. So that's where we're representing a piece of a whole. So for example, 2 over 3, 7 over 11, 21 over 49. In all of these cases, the numerator, that top number, is less than the denominator, that bottom number. An improper fraction then is where that's not the case. So in an improper fraction, our numerator is greater than or equal to the denominator. So 8/7 is an improper fraction because the 8's bigger than the 7. 5/5 is actually an improper fraction because those two numbers are equal. And 18/7 would be another example. So let's list the proper and improper fractions here. So first one, 5/4, is going to be improper because the 5 is greater, the numerator is greater than the denominator. 10/11 then would be a proper fraction. 3/4 or 3/4 is a proper fraction. How about 8/5? So that'll be improper. And then 7/7, anytime the denominator and numerator are equal, we also call that improper. All right, a little more terminology. So we talked about proper fractions now, the regular ones. Improper, our numerator is greater. Last vocabulary to learn is mixed number. And so that's where we have a whole number and a fraction, a proper fraction. So for example, here in these two circles, that represents one whole pi, let's say, plus another 1/3 of a pi, and we would write it like this, 1 and 1/3. So what that really means is we have one whole thing plus we have another 1/3. So what if we wanted to a mixed number that represented the shaded portion of these circles? Well, we have 3 whole, let's say, pizzas, and then we've got this one on the end that's a part of a pizza. So there's 6 equal pieces, and we have 5 of them shaded. So it would be 3 and 5/6. Okay, another way we could write that is that we have 23/6. So out of all of the pieces, each of our pieces is 1/6 of a pizza. And so we have 23 of those shaded pizzas or pieces. And so this is an improper fraction that would represent the same amount as the mixed number we came up with of 3 and 5/6.